Several people have asked me for a status update on YouTube and Facebook, and so I wanted to take the opportunity to go through the car today and show you where I'm at. Unfortunately, I didn't get quite as far as I thought I would, but I still made some progress. So I'll outline the things that I have left, and then I'm also picking up a lot of subscribers, and I'm doing that at a rapid rate. So I want to go through the whole car real quick, kind of show what I've done. Again, it'll be super high level. There's a lot of videos you can scroll through if you want to see something specific. Some things worked, some things didn't. And then I'm going to answer some frequently asked questions because I do seem to get a lot of repeat questions. So I thought I would just address those at the end of this video. So let's take a look at the 123.
Okay, so to start out with, the biggest update on the car is that it's coming together. I don't have much of an update other than the exhaust is now on, things are ready to go. The intake, or the, well, I guess the intake tubing between the turbos is in place. Unfortunately, I ran out of welding gas. I couldn't weld my intake pipes this weekend like I had expected. When I went to start it up, my battery was dead. And on top of that, this morning I decided I'm going to run the Evans high performance waterless coolant to try to delay getting a bigger radiator. Or maybe I won't need it if that stuff works as awesome as everybody claims it does. Other than that, I have got all the junk off the car. I've cleaned up. Like I said, the exhaust is on. And we're ready to hopefully roll this out of the garage once I get the coolant and the battery charged. All the fluids are in and we are good to go. So now for the new people to the channel, let's walk through the car. Okay, so for the new people, this is a 1977 300D. It is a non-turbo car, or it was. You'll find videos that go into more detail on all these things on the channel. If you want to scroll down and go through them, you can. This whole trunk has been cleaned up. It has Herculiner inside of it. I probably would have went with a different bed liner type material. I do like the idea of the bed liner, but Herculiner, even though it's super tough, is very coarse. Okay, you'll see the my AC unit sitting in here. So in the back of the car, not a whole lot to see. I'm running a 450 SCL 6.9 limited slip differential. It has a 2:6:5 gear ratio in it. I've got a custom drive shaft, and the transmission is a 722.636 out of a E55 AMG. And of course I had to do a bell housing swap, and you'll find a video on that as well. I needed to mate that to the OM606, and they have a different bolt pattern. Okay, so let's look inside. So inside the car, I've used the SEM product line to scrub, prep, and paint all the surfaces. I took a substantial amount of time to try and do a decent job. There is a lot more work to do. Eventually, I would like to get or make custom door cards, so that is on the list. Scrolling back, you'll see I've done the C pillars, I've done the B pillars. Those have been recovered in leather, actually vinyl leatherette. And the A pillars for now have been painted. I would actually like to make a carbon fiber mold, if I can be successful at that, for the A pillars, as well as the tray, the visor tray up above. Okay, the seats are Corbeau LG1 race seats. Shifter is out of a 1998 E300TD. It goes along with the original transmission that came in this car. And I'm running the OLED aftermarket Arduino controller. Now the floor has been covered in two products from Lizard Skin. It has a sound deadener as well as a heat shield. The wiring harness has been replaced with a paintless GM wiring harness. However, I retained all of the Mercedes connectors where it made sense. The thing I like about the Mercedes connectors is they can be desoldered and reused. The thing I don't like about the Mercedes connectors is that they're big and they're bulky. Okay, let's go up front. Okay, so up front we have W126 Gen 2 brakes, substantially bigger than the stock 123 brakes. The discs are enormous. You can scroll through my Facebook page and look at the photos, and I have a side-by-side comparison. The calipers are also much bigger. They already mentioned the transmission, but that is mated to a 1998 OM606 24-valve turbo diesel engine. Okay, so this engine has just been redone. I've got 4 videos on that you can watch. I have gone through some basic calculations. There's also a really long and boring video on that you can watch. But I ended up going with a HX40 Super Turbo is my low pressure, and then I have an HX35 for my high pressure turbo. At a later time, I might swap out that high pressure turbo. I really don't need much more on the top end. I just want off the line performance, so I'll probably go smaller. Okay, so you may notice I'm actually using the stock 606 exhaust manifold there. That was a decision I made based on my time constraints. I need to get this car on the road. It is a daily driver, so I needed to move forward, and there were so many things to do. I just elected to use that manifold. Already mentioned the intercooler piping is an outstanding item that I need to get to. Let's look at the radiator here. I got a later 123 radiator with an overflow. 1977 123s didn't have the radiator cap on the radiator, and it did not have an overflow. So prior to changing to this type of setup, I was getting extremely hot and actually overheating occasionally. Once I switched to the overflow tank, I have not had that issue. But now that I'm going to run the compounds, I expect cooling to be a problem. That is why I'm going to try this waterless coolant and see if that makes a difference. So to cool, I have a very high flowing electric fan that's a Polar, and then I have the pusher fan, the stock Mercedes fan. These are all controlled by a Hayden controller. The Hayden controller is actually mounted right back behind the headlight, and you'll see it right there. Okay. I have a diesel making 8mm pump. It's a super pump. Again, everything's been redone. Custom bracket for the throttle position sensor. That's a W210 throttle position sensor that is required by the transmission computer. You'll see some wiring down there. When this engine is done, you will not see any wiring except for the radiator fans. That is the goal. Everything has been closed up in the firewall with the exception of the original fuse box opening. There are no fuses in here. I'm running a painless wiring harness, as I already mentioned, but I thought this added to the stock look of the 123. Okay, so all the wiring is actually run underneath the top of the fender here. It actually comes through, and on each side it comes through the turn signal and down to the headlights through this factory grommet. So everything has been concealed to the best of my ability. Again, the exception will be the leads going to the fan and to the battery. I think that pretty much sums up the car at a high level. Frequently asked questions. Biggest one, am I worried about cooling? Of course I'm worried about cooling. That's why I'm going to try this waterless coolant. If that works, that's great. I just like the factory look. I want the car to look like it's just supposed to be this way from Mercedes. So if I could have this radiator here rather than some aluminum race radiator, which looks cool too, it's just not my thing, I would much rather have this look. Chances are it's not going to be enough and I'm going to have to swap it out. But I'm going to give this a shot first. Second question, my turbos are too close in sizing. Yeah, well, I could get stuck in analysis paralysis, and I could sit there and look at numbers all day long. I want to get the car on the road, and I want to see how it performs. If it doesn't perform, I'm going to go smaller. I might try an HY35, which is a 9cm housing, and I think that will do it. My concern is if I go too small, then at the top, I'll lose the top end. And if I go too big, I really don't need that, and I still won't have the off the line that I want. The other alternative is nitrous, so I really don't know where that's going to evolve to, but really the car is fast enough. It's a daily driver, it's not a drift car. The exhaust manifold. That's the third question. Why am I running a stock exhaust manifold? It's time. I have a header flange. I just don't have time or the skills yet to build a stainless steel header. I have the KKD header. I could run that with HX40 Super all day long. But there's so many things that I've addressed on this car, and they all take time. I have a professional life and I have a family life. So I've elected to put the header on the back burner for the time being. I get asked about moving the battery to the trunk. Why is it in the engine compartment? Well, that's because where it was when Mercedes rolled it out. As I mentioned, I kind of look like the stock look. In fact, I'd be running with the hubcaps if I could, but those brakes require a 15-inch or larger wheel. The battery doesn't bother me. Plus, one of the things that I didn't mention is this thing is going to be put on airbags. So my trunk is going to be full of an air tank and 2 compressors. I also didn't mention that I have put this thing on Spax Performance shocks and springs, and in the back I've installed the K-Mac camber kit. You can find a video on that as well. I think those are the biggest questions. I want to thank you all for watching.